Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon. Okay, so we're at another week, another Sabbath, a wonderful day, Baruch Hashem. Okay, so first of all, an update on the goings on. First of all, what is become apparent and clear is that according to the so-called press in the West, they won't tell you that the war in Ukraine has already been lost to Russia. Russia's already won that war. There are various countries that are proposing. First, they were proposing to make peace with Russia, but the United Kingdom, UK, obviously opposed peace plans, and they, in some way, form or shape, encouraged those countries not to do so, and so that was withheld. It wasn't done. And then the same countries are going on a war footing again. Now, you all should know that the UK in the past has been connected to many pagan false worships of false gods. The empire that they belong to, the Roman Empire, that also belonged to many pagan worships and many such things where they did things that were many times violations of Torah, Torah law. So a lot of what we're seeing today in Ukraine, and I would probably suggest that America, was once ruled by the United Kingdom's empire, call it Roman Empire if you like, and then, middle of the 18th century, it was freed. But even today, there are still influences here of that empire. Many people believe in this country, in America, that the Federal Reserve is a not belonging to the US, but is actually registered in Europe, and that it belongs and controlled by, many people suggest, is controlled by the government in Europe. And you know which country I'm pointing to. That is the belief of many people, many aware Americans. I'm not talking about those that are fast asleep and those that are still living robotic, non-existent lives, whose lives are dictated by whatever the doctor says is okay. I'm not talking about those Americans. I'm talking about Americans that are aware. Those Americans suggest that such is the case. Also suggested by such Americans is the case brought forward that the vaccines that were made, I don't know, how much truth is in this, but I guess, you search it out for yourself. They believe that the vaccines had snake venom in them, put in them as a kind of a protein that, for whatever reason, and by the way, this snake venom is not only in vaccines, but is also in makeup, also in some food items, also in some agriculture items. The suggestion, there are people that you could probably search out who will talk more about this. I'm not an expert on the subject, so I don't talk about it. But there are people like, I believe, Mike Adams, and the other person, I believe that's some kind of an expert on this is Dr. Let me look at his name, Dr. Ardis. Yeah, Dr. Brian Ardis is somebody that, people believe is some kind of an expert in this area. So if you want to know more about it, you can, search it out and listen to Mike Adams of Natural News and Dr. Ardis and see what they have to say. But apparently the idea is that people might ask, well, how can you have so much snake venom? And the answer is that a lot of this snake venom is not now real snakes. It's actually synthesized by mixing different materials, and the outcome is the result is the same as snake venom. So what that does in the body and what it doesn't do, I think that there's a whole host of suggestions and arguments and counter arguments, but the idea is that it's supposed to reduce your life. Okay, that's the idea. Now there are ways to counteract that snake venom in your body, and I guess they'll make suggestions of how they suggest to counteract it. I have my own ways, but those guys will suggest their ways of what they do. So that's basically that. Russia is conquered and demolished many strongholds of Ukraine and controlling them. There are Ukrainian soldiers now coming out in clips that I guess they're trying to ban, that they're actually crying and saying that we've lost the war and they want to go home. They don't want to fight this war any longer. This is a state. This is a state. In spite of America giving billions of dollars, which has an agenda, of course, it's not given for free. Behind that is Europe as well. And Europe, though, is falling at the seams, but it's still going along, trying to think that they might get somewhere, and they're not going to get anywhere with that. So that's that side. Now the Middle East side, Israel, Palestinian war, Saudi Arabia, Iran, other nations surrounding. The situation is this, that news came out a few days ago, very important news, and this was in the East, that Iran has offered Saudi Arabia publicly to build them a nuclear arsenal. And that's a game changer because, at one time Saudi Arabia and Iran were arch enemies and now they're friends. So Iran has suggested to the Saudi ambassador that we are willing to give you uranium enrichment plant that you can build your own uranium arsenal, and one day you can build your own nuclear bomb. I guess that's where it's going. Now, of course, the West don't want that. A lot of these nations don't want it. The so-called colonizers, I should say, they are nothing but colonizers. That's the problem. The problem is that a lot of these European nations have come out of they are in the colonizing mindset. And as you know how they colonize Africa and some other parts of the world, their mentality of their elite people hasn't stopped being that. They still carry that mentality. Sadly the case. I'm not saying all of them, but not European people, but European elite leaders. Some of them still carry the mentality of colonizing nations and, of course, taking their, robbing them in some way, shape and form, like taking their goods, taking their resources and using it themselves and enriching themselves. That's still their mindset, by the way. The war in Israel is already lost by Israel. Let me kind of point out a few things. Number one, that I want to point out something regarding the war, and that is this, that this war is a lost war. We already know that. It never happened in 72 or 73 years. Israel lost this war. Whenever Israel violated Torah laws, they never won any wars. Make that very clear, okay? And right now, they are in several violations of the Torah, of which killing of children and killing of women. These are the biggest violations. Now, I want to draw your attention to a god called Molech, which was a god of the Euphrates, a Syrian god, and this particular deity was worshipped by, what we know is that this particular deity was at one time worshipped by Israeli kings as well. The kings that were famous for building pagan temples, King Solomon, by the way, at one point went astray and build temples. Apart from King Solomon, there were other kings that also did this kind of worship, which is mentioned in the book of Kings. Now, this particular god was believed to be a Phoenician pagan deity, and it had a place in the Hinnom Valley, which is not far from Jerusalem. And there was a pit there, and what they did, they burnt children there, and they kind of offered babies, small children as sacrifices. And a number of ancient kings, especially Judah's kings, a number of them, couple of them, were involved in such evil behavior. And those kings were Ahaz, who's mentioned in the book of Kings, and Manasseh, also mentioned in the book of 2 Kings. You can read about them in 2 Kings chapter 16 and 2 Kings chapter 21. These kings were influenced by the Assyrians and the worship of this deity with the hillside at Topheth, which is outside the walls of Jerusalem. Now, you might ask, what is the connection of this? And that's interesting that you should ask that question. And I'm happy to answer that particular question, is what is the connection of this particular deity to the past worship? And the connection is basically this. In the book of Leviticus, in the Torah, in chapter 18, we are told that the worship of Malach, which included child sacrifice, is forbidden. Okay, it's considered a very ancient thing, and it's considered a severe violation of Torah. God was very clear in the Torah. Call it Old Testament if you want to call it Old Testament, doesn't matter, but the law still stands. God was very clear that he was against this kind of sacrifice, and even when some of these kings got involved, God was very displeased with these people. Malach, at the heart of this worship, is it just doesn't stop there. There's an ancient, it goes back further. If we go back further, this particular deity, according to the Ugaritic texts, ancient texts, this Malach god is also known as the god Repiu, okay, whose name, Repiu might be a plural word, but the name in the singular word is Raphaim. Now, some of you might be familiar with Raphaim. The Torah mentions a person called Og of Bashan, and that was the last Raphaim king. Remember, he was a giant. And Repiu is described as a god enthroned at Ashtaroth. Ashtaroth is related to trees, the word Easter, and it was also the god who ruled in Idria. Idria is mentioned in the Torah. Idria is a place in northern Arabia, northern Saudi, what's today known as Saudi Arabia. These cities were ruled by Og of Bashan. Okay, the Rephaim have their connections back to Genesis chapter 6, who are also known as a Nephilim. Nephilim, according to the book of Enoch, were the offspring of a group of fallen angels known as Watchers. And, according to the book of Enoch, these Nephilim, they came down. They were, very tall creatures. They did some violent acts against humans, against women, and because of their violations, because of their sins, because of their transgressions, God sent the flood to wipe them out. Now, apparently, it's believed that the Nephilims, when they died, their spirits, they became demons. Okay, the spirits of these Nephilim are thought to be demons, and that is, by the way, also how the church or early church believed it. Jude or Judah, who is also known as a brother of Jesus, Yeshua, he talks about these things in the book of Jude. In verse 14, he mentions that these angels or watchers, they transgressed the appointment and were captivated by the love of women, and they begat children and are those who are called demons. Okay? So this is actually mentioned in the New Testament, if you want to read about it. And that is kind of the connection. Now, according to Paul in the New Testament, he mentions that idols are nothing to be afraid of, and they're nothing to worry about, because it's nothing but, it's idolatry, and just, don't follow it. In 1 Corinthians chapter 8, it speaks about that. God warned the Israelites, sons of Israel, not to make idols or offer them worship in the book of Leviticus. And you can read about it in chapter 26, chapter 19, etc. Also, we find similar, not exactly the same language, but similar language warnings in the New Testament as well. Now, what is the connection between Israel, idols, present-day Israel, idols, child sacrifices, etc.? This is going to get a little deep. Modern-day Israel's alleged Jews, okay? Majority of them, they came from conversions in the ancient kingdoms that was centered around Russia, okay? And today, the war that ensues in Gaza, and you may have heard that a lot of women, when they bomb these places, and bombs are supplied by America, by the way, and money, when these places are bombed, a lot of times women and little children are killed. Some people, and I'm going to suggest this, some people believe that these individuals in Israel, call them the elites, call them their leaders, some of their leaders, they are still sacrificing infants to their god Malach, okay? Because these are not Torah people. Let's get this straight. The majority of the leaders in Israel, they are not Torah-centric. So their connection goes right back to pagan gods and goddesses that they still adore and they still worship in some way, shape, or form. And these sacrifices still go on. Now, I have heard a lot of the times that some of these things occur in America, where children are kidnapped, they disappear, and then the bodies are found, later. The bodies are violated by, parts being removed and other things. Some people believe in America, that these are child sacrifices, that they are committed by the elites in America. And, the sources again go back to ancient false gods known as Malach. Okay? So that's the connection. Now, the other connection in Israel is that a lot of the Jews that call themselves Jews today, they have an ancestry line going to Esau, Edom. Okay? I want you to check that out carefully. And I don't want to talk about it too much at this point, but I just want to point out that a lot of them have connection to Edom. They were forcefully converted at one point in history, and they are not the original sons of Israel. Now, of course, this is not to say that that we don't have the original people in Israel. We do, but they are small in number. Okay, they're small in number, and the majority of these people in Israel that are small in number are from the tribe of Judah, and some of them from tribe of Benjamin. Majority of the 12 tribes are not in Israel. They're still out there in the world. Coming back to the war, how the dynamics are changing is that if Saudi Arabia gets the weapons, gets the power plants that they need, the nuclear plants to produce weapons, of course, one day it spells out a big war. Not right now, but a day in the future, maybe in your and my lives, we will see a big, big war that will take place in the Middle East. And you can be sure that there'll be, behind that war, it will be the fingers of European leaders and American leaders. That's guaranteed, that just can't be ruled out. That's kind of where we are going. America's already been defeated in the Red Sea. This is clear. American equipment doesn't work over there as effectively. They can't stop the drones effectively. They can't stop the missiles. And Iran is proved that Iran has superior technology that these people are not aware of yet, how to stop it, and they managed to do some serious damage to Israel's bases in Israel. Both through Iran's direct hit and also through Hezbollah and their other counterparts, Yemenite, the Houthis, etc. So that's the news on the ground. Now, in all honesty, I think that a lot is going on in this world, and I'm not saying to you to live in fear or fear mongering. It's not fear mongering, just knowledge, just information that you will have that will help you in determining your future, your children's future, where you live, and how you orchestrate your life. I would encourage you all, those who are listening, I would encourage you to be close to the Torah, because close to the Torah means that God will offer you protection. We serve a covenant God. He does not forget the covenant that He made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Since we are the sons of those guys, He will honor those covenants. So my suggestion to you, those of you live in America, Europe, and other places, is to honor the covenant, honor God. The more you honor God, the more God will protect your families, your children, and your future children's children. This is my suggestion. Now, of course, there is also the ideology in the West of reducing population and killing people through diseases, and like I explained, these various kind of venoms. The whole ideology is to kill people, reduce populations. They have these ideologies, and these ideologies are not new. They are old ideologies, and they are neither here nor there. Okay, so just be aware, just be conscious of it, and just do the right thing according to the Torah. That's all I will appeal to you. I will appeal to you to stick to the Torah, and God will definitely honor you for that and protect you. He will protect your families, and He will, grant you long life, health, and of course substance, wealth, etc. That's my basic suggestion, that you do that. The other thing is this, that I know we're in the nations, and I know sometimes we make mistakes, trying to do Torah commandments. Sometimes we may not do them as accurately as we like, but in spite of that, my suggestion is that you do the best you can, and where you end up violating Torah laws, I suggest that you try to amend or give sadaqah and try to do the right thing, so that it may be well with you and it may be well with your children. Okay? Because I think it's important that we understand that. Let me come back to one thing. Give me a second. Let's see. So my suggestion in Malachim Aleph. Okay, so let me open the book of Psalms, and I wanted to read a couple of Psalms for you. Let me just open it up. Psalm, looks like right at the end. Shimeon Bet. Give me a second. I'm just looking in my Bible. I'm going to read from the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls. First I'm going to read the judgment in the book of Obadiah, Obadiah as in your Bibles. And here it's something that I think is interesting. The vision of Obadiah. Thus says Master, Adonai Lord, Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, and an ambassador is sent among the nations. Arise and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made you small among the nations, you are greatly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, you that dwell in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that says in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? By the way, this is for Israel, present-day Israel, the Edomites, who are, allegedly claim to be the people of God, yet their actions are nothing but actions of, Torah violators. Though you exalt yourself as the eagle, and though you set your nest among the stars, they will bring you down, says Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. If thieves come to you, if robbers by night, how are you cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave? Some grapes. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? You see, here's my question. If Esau was dead, if Esau's children were dead, then who is this talking about? According to all of you out there, Esau's dead and his children are dead and they are dispersed and they are no longer here. Or maybe you might say, it's only Jordan. Well, if only Jordan, when did Jordan claim to be, having spaceships and, having, going out into the outer space and setting up space stations and, high technology? When did Jordan claim that? Never. How about never? Who claimed it? And we spoke about these things a number of times, the so-called landings in the moon, landings in Mars. We already spoke about it, and you know my views on that. So, whose pride, in whose heart has deceived who? So, see, these are people that are present, they are alive, and they are powerful individuals. That's who God is speaking about. It says, all the men of your confederacy have brought you even to the border. The men that were at Shalom with you have deceived you and prevailed against you. They that eat your lachem, your bread, have laid a wound under you. There is none understanding in him. Okay, so let me go to verse 6. You got to see. I'm not going to read this comment publicly. This is footnote 6 in the book of Obadiah or Obadiah. I want you to go and read the comment for yourself, okay? And you will understand where we are. And also, I wanted to give you something that you may not be aware. And something that I haven't ever discussed publicly, today I will discuss it a little bit. I think that it's high time that you know that the name of God is not what, all of the people out there pronounce and claim to be. Every group out there claims that they have divine knowledge and they know how to pronounce the name. Some of them will call God Yahweh, then Yahuwah, and then Yahweh, and Yahuwah, and Jehovah, and many other forms. And by the way, none of them are right. Okay? They're all wrong, every one of them. Why is that? Because God's name now, I'm talking about the 4 letters, were never meant to be pronounced. This is why I've never went into a discussion and a debate about it. They were always meant to be. It's not Yehovah, it's not Jehovah, it's not Yahweh, it's none of those. It was never meant to be pronounced. The 4 letters were only meant to be Yod, He, Wah, He. That's it. That's how you're supposed to speak them. That's how they're supposed to be spoken. They are sacred. They're only supposed to be spoken like this, and there's no other means to speak them. Now there is another method. There is another method in which these words are used, and I'm not going to illustrate that publicly. Okay? I'm not going to tell you publicly how that is done, but there is something public. There is maybe one day, maybe privately one day I will tell you that, of how that works. Because that activates your brain centers, your brain's important areas when you say it in that particular context, in that particular way. But it is not a full form name. It's not like saying Jehovah, or it's not like saying Yehovah or Yahweh. None of those. They're all, none of these groups have any idea, because they all claim to be, divine messengers, and they're all speaking BS. So don't listen to any of them, because they're all wrong. So remember, from today, whenever you read the name, read it as I showed you. Yod, He, Wah, He. That's how you're supposed to read it, if you read it. If you want to replace it with Hashem Adonai, fine. But if you're going to read it, you read it like that. Yod, He, Wah, He. Even in the Greek translation of the Torah, when the name was inserted, it was not inserted in the Greek form of theos. It was inserted just as 4 characters, because that is how it's pronounced. The rabbis, ancient rabbis, the 12 rabbis that translated the Torah, even knew back then that this is how it meant to be. Okay, so this, why is the name hidden? Why was it hidden? Again, I don't want to get into those discussions and arguments. All I'm telling you is you can believe it or you can ignore it. That's how it is. That's how it's going to be. Okay? You're hearing it from the Kohen's mouth. So I'd suggest that you pay attention. Now it says in verse 8 of the book of Obadiah, or Obadiah, shall I not in that day, says Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau. What is the mount of Esau? The mount of Esau is collectively the kingdom that today, many Christians worship, like, chosen people of God, we bow down to you. No, they are not the chosen of God. Christians today are so ignorant of who the chosen people are. And then it also says, and you mighty men, O Taman, shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. Now, if you doubt it, I want you to go and check in this particular little war that we saw in the last 3 months, how many people of the so-called IDF forces died, how many tanks were busted, destroyed, how many, of their bases were destroyed. I want you to go and check it carefully and then tell me, and then come and tell me that the prophet Obadiah is a liar because he doesn't know what he's talking about. See, this is the level of ignorance that we find amongst Christians who worship the Jews without recognizing who the true sons of Israel are. It says, for your violence against your brother Yaakov, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. In the day that you stood on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captives his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even you were one of them. So, who cast lots for Jerusalem? Who said that Israel belongs to us? And who took the land? And where are the real sons of Israel? Big questions. But you should not have looked on the day of your brother in the day. And for this answer, I want you to go to 1917 and to the Balfour Declaration, and who the land was given to, and who occupied the land at the time, and how it was taken and handed over, and what agreements were made. I want you to go check those things out if you have the time and the inclination. Lord Balfour, agreement. It says, but you should not have looked on the day of your brother in the day that he became a foreigner, neither should you have rejoiced over the children of Yehudah in the day of their destruction, neither should you have spoken proudly in the day of distress. You should not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yes, you should not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. This is God's warning to those people who claim today to be chosen and have taken over places that belong to the real sons of Israel. Okay? These are warnings. You can go and check with Christian scholars if they have any knowledge. None of these prophecies to date, the totality of these prophecies are not yet come to pass. And in verse 14 it says, neither should you have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape, neither should you have given over those of his that did remain in the day of distress. For the day of Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh is near, or in the Bibles, other Bibles, for the day of the Lord is near upon all the nations. As you have done, it shall be done to you. Your reward shall return upon your own head. That means UK, USA, all the European countries, everyone that took part in their dissection of Israel and the splitting of the land and giving it to a foreign people and disregarding the real sons of Abraham, you are going to be punished for this. Yeah, your punishment is nigh. And none of you can prevent it, and none of you can get away with it. You have time to repent. You have time to fix things. And you have time to restore things. But I know, you're going to carry on as nothing happened, and God's going to destroy you. And God's going to destroy your wives, and God's going to destroy the people that claim to, have authority in your lands. That's what will happen. And that's unfortunate, because in this are evil leaders of nations that only espouse evil. The people of those nations don't even know what's going on, because they keep it from them. They hide the news, they hide the real stories, and they only give them fodder. And this is the ideology. They say, keep feeding the people nonsense, keep them busy in their little things, and whilst they continue with their bigger agendas of trying to conquer nations, rule the people, and loot their lands. This is unfortunately the agendas that we're looking at. And it says in verse 16, for as you have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the nations drink continually. Yes, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. But upon Mount Zion shall be rescue, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Yaakov shall possess their possession. By the way, this is yet future. This is future. This has not yet happened, but the evidence of other things are beginning to happen. The judgments are beginning to happen on nations. So I believe, and I have wholehearted belief, that Iran, Saudi Arabia, they're going to play, Turkey, they're going to play, and Russia, they're going to play big roles in this, big roles. And Iran's going to play a massive role. So therefore, look out. The time is now, getting closer. And it says, the house of Yaakov shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. Well, if Esau is dead, then why would he be stubble? Esau is gone, right? And why would everybody attack Jordan if Esau is Jordan? Oh, Esau is not Jordan. Esau is much bigger than you think. And they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining as a house of Esau, for Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh has spoken it. God is a faithful God. God never lies. God never, just makes up stories. Our God is a faithful God, and He always tells the truth. He honors the covenant that He made with our fathers, and He will continually honor it to the end of days, to the end of the age, when God renews this earth. So I am confident that God is bringing His purposes throughout the different lands, different countries, and I'm confident that God will give us the leaders that will make the right choices, be it for America, be it for Europe. The right leaders will be given at the right time who will make the right choices. Right now, we are not there. We don't have those leaders yet. So we still await for God's direction and God's purposes. But I want you to be happy and know that those of you who are the sons of Abraham and those of you who are the daughters of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, there is much hope for all of you and much blessings. So return back to the Torah, return back to the ways of God, and turn away from violations of the Torah. Turn away from those things and serve God with a full heart. And you will be benefit and you will be a blessing in the nations. God will bless you. God will make your name great, and God will make you a blessing in the nations where you are. Before, finally He takes all of us back to the land where we belong, but God will make you all a blessing in the very nations where you live. So this is a great time to look forward to that, God will use us to be a blessing to others. Baruch Hashem, so happy about that that time will come for us. Now, in the meantime, I tell you to use the tools and techniques I taught you. And one of the tools, techniques I taught you is that if you want something, you put it on a list, make a list, and then just repeat that you have everything on the list. Do maybe 20 minutes 3 times a day, 20, 1 hour, 3 times a day. Give yourself time. And those of you, I want you to, those of you seeking employment, I've already personally guided you what you need to do. And those of you seeking healing, I personally guided you. And those of you who are not sure, write to me at my email, shimon63@yahoo.com. I sent you an email regards donations, tithes, how to direct those, because, we are not going to have a face such as a website, but our whole communication will be through either Rumble, YouTube channels, as long as they're there, and of course there's Facebook. So these clips that go out on the various websites, I would suggest that you subscribe to the website so that, click the bell icon on the website so that all the communications that are made there, that you will be able to get these alerts. Even without emails, you'll be able to be alerted and say there's a new message and you need to go listen. So I would suggest that. I want you to have a wonderful Sabbath, a wonderful next week with your families. Enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful time. May God bless you all and keep you safe. Shabbat shalom to you and shalom shalom to you.